It's Friday, November 16th, Saturday, November 17th, if you're on the East Coast or across the pond. And this, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. Hope you had a great day and night. I am your host, Dave Scott, broadcasting to you live from the Great White North, on top of the mountains of central British Columbia, right here at SOR headquarters. We welcome you nightly on the SOR Radio Network and Deep Talk Radio. If you want to listen to our archives, they are free at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you. You can rock out to Bumblefoot. Soon, shop at our brand new Spaced Out Radio store. Read up on the SOR Newswire put together by Captain Shirk and so much more. Tonight's show is brought to you by the YouTube channel Ensuho. Sebastian Martin brings high-quality messages to the masses. Go to spacedoutradio.com, click on the Ensuho banner, and subscribe to the channel today. How do aliens fly their spacecraft? What about these amazing turns and acceleration that they show? How is it done? It's a mystery that we can only imagine the boys and girls of places like Area 51 can almost answer with our limited physics knowledge. Flying Saucers from Beyond the Earth is Gordon Lohr's 15-year UFO odyssey through the 60s and 70s in what Gordon calls the most formative research and investigation years of this constantly ongoing phenomenon. His work is highlighted by Major Donald E. Kehoe, known as Mr. UFO because he wrote the first book and article on the subject back in 1950. And of course, where's it going today? Are we heading to disclosure? Are we getting closer to getting to that final melting pot, knowing that we are not alone in the universe? Then in the bottom of hour number 3, Olaf Phillips will join us from Paranoia Magazine for another edition of the SOR Newswire. Mr. Gordon Lohr, thank you for the first time coming on Spaced Out Radio. Really appreciate you taking the time to discuss this important topic.
Well, thank you for asking me to be your guest. I appreciate it.
We're always a pleasure to have somebody of your stature on. Gordon, I want to get into learning a little bit about you for our audience right off the bat here. How did you get into UFOs and the research?
Well, originally I lived in a small town in southern Maryland, Solomon's Island, where the Chesapeake Bay meets the Patuxent River. And in 1955, I had already read 2 books by Major Kehoe. The Flying Saucers Are Real, which he published in 1950, and the second was Flying Saucers from Outer Space in 1953. And I was kind of hooked on the subject after that, but then I had my own sighting in 1955 when I was sitting at a long half-mile pier stretching out into the Patuxent River near the mouth of the Chesapeake Bay. The pier belonged to the Chesapeake Biological Laboratory, and I was out there one night in the summer of 1955 when I saw the outline of a large disc-shaped object which suddenly dove into the water, then rose back into the sky and headed straight for me. As it flew over me, I saw a bottom panel open, and the UFO sort of sprayed me with a Patuxent shower. Now, most of the spray didn't hit me, but a few drops did. And I was really scared at that point, and then the object rose straight up and disappeared, and that scared the hell out of me. Now, the next day, I checked with the Patuxent Naval Air Station, which was across the bay from us, and they said they had nothing in the air that would indicate that it was anything of theirs. And then I had a second sighting on April 2nd of 58, and another one in November of 58 as well, which I can tell you about if you want to.
Yeah, I definitely want to hear those, for sure. Go for it.
All right, well, the first was in April 2nd, 58, and I was returning home at about 8:15 p.m. from my class at the Peabody Conservatory of Music in Baltimore, when I saw a large white light hovering over a barn. Then a few minutes later, it began blinking on and off and kind of followed my car for most of the 6 remaining miles to Solomon's Island, where I flew. Then it stopped and hovered over still another barn. A minute or so later, it started to perform some fantastic maneuvers. Then in an instant, it appeared at one end of the sky. Then, like a split second later, it would reappear at the other end of the sky. And it did this half a dozen or so times, just back and forth, back and forth. Then it suddenly stopped. And then I saw a large, brilliant red light that came out of the sky and appeared to merge with the larger light. At this point, my car radio began emitting a loud screeching sound, what we call electromagnetic effects to batteries and lights and horns and stuff like that on motor vehicles. And then as I approached the Patuxent River, which is a mile away from where I lived, the light crossed the river and then headed south and disappeared. And then nearly 7 months later, on November 20th, 1958, I was standing outside my father's oyster house on Solomon's Island that faced the Patuxent River at about 5 o'clock p.m. When I saw a red streak of light hanging over the river. And there were about 15 or so other plant workers with me. Then we saw 3 slender cigar-shaped objects that were moving slowly over the river to St. Mary's County on the opposite side. Then a 4th, much larger object appeared seemingly out of nowhere, and it came down out of the sky and dwarfed the other 3 UFOs. As we watched, the large object began expanding from both sides at once. Then it quickly rose up into the sky at an estimated, I guess then, at about 20,000 feet altitude. Then it changed to a silvery disk and disappeared at a tremendous speed, and the other objects followed suit. And I sent these reports in to NICAP, and this was still several years before I joined the NICAP staff in 1965. So there are my 3 sightings. I haven't seen anything that I would list as real UFO sightings since, although I've looked many times.
Well, absolutely, I would assume that you had. But as you had these at such a young age, when you were, Gordon, going through these experiences that you had, at that time, what was going through your mind? Did you think that you were dealing with something extraterrestrial, or did you think that you were dealing with, maybe you were one of the few who caught a sighting of something that was one of ours?
No, well, as I say, after even the first sighting there, I couldn't believe that it was one of ours, although I did check with the Naval Air Station to see if there was a possibility that it could have been. And they said that it wasn't, and I can't imagine something like that. But particularly after the second sighting, I think it was particularly after the second sighting that I really thought, well, yeah, this phenomena is real. And I'd since read, even before the second sighting, a couple of more books on this subject, and had already believed then that we had a real phenomena going on that had been going on for years. And, of course, my first book on this subject, Mysteries of the Skies, UFOs in Perspective, was the first book ever written on the historical aspects of the subject, going back in time for about a couple of hundred years before the famous Kenneth Arnold sighting over Mount Rainier, Washington in June of 1947, in which this private pilot saw 3 disc-shaped objects in his airplane flying over Mount Rainier, and he described them as sort of like saucers skipping over water. Therefore, an enterprising reporter came up very soon after that, practically the next day, and the term flying saucers was born.
Gordon, when you saw that ship that opened up its bay doors and kind of dropped something around you or on you,
yeah,
what was going through your mind when that happened? And, was it something that you could have collected, some sort of material or metamaterial?
No, I didn't even think about that at the time because I was young, don't forget. I was only, I wasn't that young. I was 19, but I still didn't think to do that. And I hadn't had enough knowledge. I'd only read at that time the 2 books by Kehoe. Since then, of course, I read much more about the subject, and even wrote. I was the associate editor with Major Kehoe being the main editor of UFO investigator for NICAP, and I was the sole editor of my own organization's publication called the UFO Research Associates newsletter. And but it was those two sightings that really began me to think maybe, just maybe, we are being observed by crafts from some other place other than Earth. And I became even more convinced of it as I read further on the subject, and particularly after I was hired at NICAP back in 1965.
Gordon, did you believe in UFOs and aliens prior to these sightings, or was this something that kind of shifted your imagination to reality?
Well, it kind of shifted the imagination, but did I believe? I was on the very verge of believing it after I'd read Kehoe's two books. And then I read after that another one or two books, even before my second sighting. And by the time of my second sighting, I believed definitely that there was something here that needed to be further explored. And I didn't realize at the time then that there had already been a lot of explorations, even at NICAP, because NICAP was founded in 1957, or was founded in late 56, and Kehoe took it over on January 1st, 57, up until the time that Kehoe and I were summarily fired by the CIA, I'm sure, in the beginning of 1970, or the last day, actually, of the last day of 1969.
My goodness!
And that was after the famous Condon report was issued, right. Which was sort of the death knell for NICAP, probably, and other UFO organizations as well, at least in their current state. At least in their current state of being at the time.
During that late 1950s to the 70s, we saw a boom in technology, where we went from flying prop planes up to Mach 3.3 with the development of the SR-71 Blackbird back then, which was known as the A-12.
Absolutely. Well, there's a lot of people think...
please, go ahead.
As I say, a lot of people think that cases back to Roswell, and even before there was a case, I understand, in Cape Girardeau, Missouri in 1941, even before Roswell. But then there was sort of a bombshell of sightings after Roswell. And, of course, in Roswell, there were cases of where pieces of supposedly the wreckage from the UFO were strewn out over a field in a farmer's field there, but the Air Force came up with the explanation of skyhook balloons. There were large balloons that were sent up, but nothing could explain what really happened there at Roswell, and in other cases as well. I have some of that in my book, but most of my book covers my 15 years from 1965 to 1980, investigating the cases with the two organizations, NICAP and U4.
So while you were investigating this and you started taking this very seriously, it was at a very tumultuous time because the Korean War was going on. Eisenhower allegedly, and we use that term extremely loosely, had met with extraterrestrials in California for trading people for technology. If you want to buy into that story, and of course we hit this technological boom, especially with jet engines, with which a lot of people are thanking Project Paperclip for. I mean, there was a lot going on. And how did you then decide that this was a road you needed to take, Gordon, to find out what was going on this planet?
Well, the road I needed to take was very simple. It was after I read Kehoe's books, and I had begun searching out other authors of books on UFOs as well. I just got very interested in the subject. I was also interested in spiritualism and psychic and occult things as well. So I sort of delved into a kind of spiritual UFO period. Began developing when I was maybe 19 years old. About the time I saw my that first UFO sighting, and it just became something I was extremely interested in, and that's about it. I didn't have any real no real experience with it until I joined the NICAP staff, and this was in early 1965.
When you started putting all the evidence together, like Roswell and, what happened in Washington State where the term flying saucer was created, and then so much that had gone on, and you started talking to people like Kehoe and all of them, did you really believe that there was some sort of conspiracy to keep the government or keep the secret about UFOs silent, and that the government was holding on to technology, or were you wondering when is that fateful day going to be coming where the ETs present themselves on the White House lawn?
Yeah, both. Actually, I was convinced, because I had read several books before I joined the NICAP staff, that, and I was kind of convinced by them that something was going on, and I really began to believe that the government was withholding a lot of information that they were not revealing to the public. And of course, this was, during the days when there still weren't computers at everybody's disposal, or the internet, or emails, or that type of thing back in those days. And but there was a lot of newspaper coverage. Matter of fact, when we were in the certain sighting periods during the 1966-67 sightings in the Hillsdale, Dexter, Michigan, in which Dr. J. Allen Hynek, whom I spent a day with in Chicago with Dr. Jacques Vallée in 1969, but he was the Air Force spokesman at the time, who later came out against the way the Air Force handled the subject, and began writing his own pro-UFO books on the subject. But I was pretty interested in it, and the way I got into NICAP was that I was a folk song singer at the Unicorn Cafe, which was a coffee house in Washington, D.C., and Dick Hall, who was the assistant director of NICAP at the time, happened to be in the audience and invited me back to his apartment, and we discussed the rest of the evening about UFOs, and he was impressed by my knowledge, and by the end of that evening, I was hired on board the NICAP staff, and this was in April 1965.
Were you surprised when you were sitting in this room with people like Dr. Hynek, Dr. Vallée, Francis Ridge, and others? Were you surprised that there was that much knowledge, research, reference to UFO study and information on them?
Yes, at the time I was. I'm not so surprised now, because I realize a lot was going on that was kept hidden not only from me, but from even Kehoe and Hall and the people really involved in the subject, let alone the entire American public. And I think there was a lot going on. There still is, and I think, of course, with this new program now, the Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program, AATIP, that this is another attempt, I think, to try to straighten it out the program. I'm not sure how AATIP's going to go. I think a man named Robert Bigelow headed the program with its main bases in the offices at the Pentagon. And then they began to discover that there were certain UFOs that moved at what they called very high velocities with no visible signs of propulsion or hovered with no apparent means of lift. And then the report indicated that Area 51 may have been used to store aliens from space and alien spacecraft. And then Bigelow went on to say, and this was widely reported a year ago around Christmas time, said the U.S. was, quote, the most backward country in the world on this issue, and that such countries as even Belgium and France and England were more open about UFO reports than the United States was. So we've kept things pretty secret from the public, and I've come pretty much to the conclusion that they have sort of known that UFOs were from somewhere in space, and that perhaps we were working with them in developing our own technology. It took me years to come to that conclusion, but I pretty much come to that.
We only got about 60 seconds here before we got to go to our first break of the night, and there's so much that I want to ask you, Mr. Lohr, in regards to this. But at that time, did you think that the United States government was harboring, or even now, aircraft and or extraterrestrials at places like Area 51?
Well, I think there's enough information that, as a matter of fact, in my book, I have a lot of cases from somebody named Len Stringfield. He was a close friend of Major Kehoe, and he put out a bunch of reports that he collected of certain alien craft that were investigated, and remains were brought to such places as Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in Dayton, Ohio, and then later at quite possibly in Area 51, the famous Area 51, which most people have heard about these days.
Right.
But,
right. On that note, I'm going to get you to hold on to that thought, because we're going to step out for a break. Right. Author Gordon Lohr, formerly of NICAP, is our guest tonight, talking UFOs. We get into it more after this break on Spaced Out Radio.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio Live with Dave Scott on the Deep Talk Radio Network.
Hello, this is your guitar man, Ron Bumblefoot Thal, and I have to tell you, I love the response I get for Little Brother is Watching from Spaced Out Radio fans. It's amazing how music can inspire and make people think deeper about what's going on in the supernatural world. You can head over to my website, bumblefoot.com, to check out my music, my guitar workshops, my touring, even check out some of the hot sauces that I'm working on. And make sure you keep on listening, because with Spaced Out Radio, you know Little Brother is watching.
Are you tired of being blocked, shadow banned, or placed in jail for simply posting your thoughts on social media? Social Media Freedom can take care of that for you. Social Media Freedom is the newest and one of the best free new apps that allows you the freedom to post what you want, when you want. It takes seconds to download from your app store. Come join the tribe at Social Media Freedom. It's time to set yourself free.
Hi there, this is Geraldine Orozco from San Francisco's Bay Area Meditation. I invite you to join me the first Tuesday of every month with Dave Scott for Spaced Out Radio's The Spiritual You. In this fast-paced world we live in, it's time for you to take some time for you. We'll cover every possible subject, from powerful meditation to healing techniques to your own intuition and spirituality. So come join us for The Spiritual You.
You hear footsteps in the empty room above you. A rocking chair begins rocking by itself. Don't be afraid of the things that go bump in the night. Reach for Spirit Storybox, the iPhone app the Huffington Post UK called the only ghost hunting app you will ever need. Spirit Storybox. The spirits are telling their stories. Are you listening?
You know, it's hard being the bad man of ufology, but that's just the way that I like it. This is Chris George Zuger, and I'll be hanging out with Dave Scott and SOR scientist Chris Cogswell for Reality Paranormal, the second Wednesday of every month. And our job is to break it down and come to conclusions as to what is really going on in the supernatural world. I'd love for you to join us right here on Spaced Out Radio.
Looking for a place to advertise at a very reasonable cost? Look no further than Spaced Out Radio. SpacedOutRadio.com has an advertising tab that you can click to check out our daily, weekly, and monthly packages to play on the radio, or our website including social media. From commercial spots to banners, we have it all. Check out our competitive pricing today.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
We're bringing scientific thought to the paranormal. Hi there, this is Spaced Out Radio scientist Chris Cogswell. Join me, Chris Zuger, and Dave Scott the second Wednesday of every month, where we break down the who from the woo when it comes to everything paranormal. We'll investigate and try to bring sensible answers to those straight and sometimes outlandish questions people have. Hey, not everything has an answer, but we'll do our best. Listen in to Reality Paranormal only on Spaced Out Radio.
A timepiece is a reflection of who you are, and what better way to show off the real you than with an Escape watch? Escape is a lifestyle brand accessorizing your days and nights. Choose to escape and create the life of discovery that you deserve. Dream, play, unite with your own personalized Escape watch. Head to escapewatches.com. There is no time like the present to enjoy your escape. Use promo code SMF2017 for your 20% discount today.
Visit purpleplates.com today. For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great genius Nikola Tesla, the harmony, healing, and energetic effects of the plates have proven over and over to be beneficial and often miraculous to thousands of customers. Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many energy products. You won't be sorry. Visit them today at purpleplates.com.
Heading to Vancouver and looking for a night on the town? The Moose Vancouver is the bar that never stops rocking until 2 a.m. every night. The Moose has great food with everything on the menu from $6.95 to $8.95. Fantastic, vibrant staff and rock and roll that will bring you back to when the music was real, the hair was long, and the guitars were rocking. Get your party on at the Moose Vancouver, the official party bar of Spaced Out Radio.
Did you know Spaced Out Radio runs 7 days a week? Hi there, this is Tessa Nicole Thomas, and I'm here to take you on a paranormal journey each Saturday and Sunday night. Why change the station when you have it all right here? Together, we'll hang out and share some strange and scary stories. And don't forget, we have Psychic Sundays as well, so come tune in Spaced Out Weekend. We get going at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, only at spacedoutradio.com, where we own the night.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7, with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
Coming soon to our website, spacedoutradio.com, is the SOR Space Travelers Club. For just $5 a month, you can get into a private area on our site where you can hang with other listeners in our chat room, post in our forum, and check out a bunch of exclusive content and store that won't be found anywhere else, including a nightly after-show party with Dave. It's going to be the best $5 a month you're going to spend. The SOR Space Travelers, only at spacedoutradio.com.
Welcome back to the second half hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott. Great to have you with us. Gordon Lohr is our guest tonight. He is a UFO author, long-time researcher. And we say long time, we're going back to the 50s, my friends. The 50s. This is a good one. This is when research was real research, not all this Google stuff. We are right here, right now. Mr. Lohr, welcome back to Spaced Out Radio.
Thank you. Thank you.
I want to ask you, in regards to your role in NICAP, where you started getting real serious into this, at what point did you start getting intrigued with the technology that was surrounding this, and of course the science that would go along with that?
Well, we didn't get a lot into the technology and science because even during my entire tenure at NICAP from 65 to 69, the main purpose of NICAP was to get scientists, the scientific body, and people like Major Donnelly Kehoe, not Major Donnelly Kehoe, but James McDonald, who was the top scientist in the field at the time, or one of the top scientists who were most interested in the in UFOs and why and how they may have come to Earth. And, of course, Hynek was the Air Force spokesman at the time, but he later, after NICAP sort of went under and the CIA took it over, he later reversed his stand and finally came out and on the positive side saying that, yes, that we have pretty much done a bad job of investigating these cases, or at least a bad job of informing the public about what was going on. And he wanted a more scientific investigation that could possibly do that. Now, how much Hynek may have known about the possibility that we already knew about alien technology and were perhaps even communicating and working with possible aliens from another planet to develop our own technology, I'm not sure about. But so the main purpose of NICAP at the time was to get Congress to hold congressional hearings on the subject, which we did in 1966 and 68, which I can tell you a little bit about.
Yeah, sure. Let's get into that.
Because I was particularly involved in the sightings that were involved because I worked with Jim McDonald and Dick Hall and even Major Kehoe in getting a plethora of UFO cases that we sent to Congressman J. Edward Rausch, who conducted the sightings, who conducted the investigation in 1968 by the U.S. Congress. And it wasn't really an investigation. It was really like six co-people on the subject and naysayers on the other side. Jim McDonald was one we give a lot of information to, but so I was involved mainly with that. And we also had a little post-conference at the National Press Club after the congressional investigation terminated then. And how much of that was turned over to the government for further investigation, I don't know. We didn't have any real input on that.
What was it like to work with somebody like J. Allen Hynek, who developed the Close Encounters statistics as well, and the classification system?
Well, I didn't work with J. Allen Hynek. I just spent a day with him, and most of that day was just getting friendly. And then, as a matter of fact, Jacques Vallée took me into the university library there to show me some original editions of works by Jules Verne. I was very familiar with Jules Verne. Of course, he wrote the books back in the 19th century about visits to the moon and to other planets, and also 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea and whatnot. So it was more or less a friendly visit. We didn't talk a lot about investigation of the subject then. All of that was done at the NICAP offices when we really began to get interested in, how is the government going to handle this? What should we turn over to the government? We turned over some of our best cases because we thought at first they were going to do a credible job. But as about 6 months into the opening of the investigation, we began to realize this may not be the case, and then we began to slowly withdraw. So I think there still has to be a real important scientific investigation, if not through Congress, just through maybe this new AATIP program, the Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program. It's been in progress now for about a year, but I haven't seen any real information out of them. As a matter of fact, I've talked to people in the field since then. They said that they didn't know what to think of AATIP because they just weren't releasing any information about it. What kind of cases are they investigating? What kind of cases do they think are real or may not be real, you know? The government's been kind of going like this all along. They seem to throw out little tidbits occasionally that might pique some interest, and when the real thing comes of what does this really boil down to? Are there extraterrestrials visiting us from other planets? Do you have any real evidence that this is happening? And then they sort of clam up and go behind closed doors. I think they have the evidence. I just don't think they're willing to tell the American people or people around the world about it, and that we have been. I know this smacks somewhat of the film Independence Day, but I think a little of that is true, that we've actually been working with aliens from outer space for some time. And other governments probably have as well.
Going back to your time with NICAP and working with people like, you met J. Allen Hynek, you worked with Jacques Vallée, and people like that. At what point? I'm still in
touch with Jacques Vallée. As a matter of fact, he wrote a nice tribute to my book. Yeah.
Jan Aldrich, who's been a guest on this show talking Foo Fighters.
Jan Aldrich, yeah, exactly.
We've had quite a few on here in regards to it.
Barry Greenwood as well. Of course, Fran Ridge, who's done an excellent job with the NICAP. Stan Freeman, although Stan told me about 6 months ago that he was going to retire when he reached 85. So I think
how do you retire from this, though? How do you retire from this?
I know. I mean, I'm 82 myself, so I know.
Don't you want the answers? Don't you want the answers before the big call?
Of course. I'll probably be on my deathbed saying, when are they going to release all this information? I hope not, but I think that might be the case.
Well,
because I've been wondering for 50 years, when is the government going to open up about this?
Well, and this is my question to you, Mr. Lohr, in regards to this. You have 50-plus years of research. You worked with one of the most talented teams on the planet NICAP, there was a lot of brain power and brain trust into that. And we're not just talking average researchers. We're talking a litany of education, that was brought forward. Yeah. So when you're sitting in those meetings with everybody and you're chatting away and talking to guys about this, what was the overall theory of what was happening and why this wasn't coming out into the public?
Well, pretty much what I said before, because there were talks among Dick Hall and myself, not particularly Kehoe. Now, Kehoe lived 100 miles away from NICAP headquarters in Washington, D.C. He lived in Luray, Virginia. So he wasn't in the office all that much, but Dick Hall and myself and one or two other NICAP staff members and just a few friends would occasionally get together and talk. When are we going to learn about this? What more should we do to get Congress and other people to open up? And mind you, this was back in the 60s, and here we are in 2018 now, the end of 2018, and we still don't have any definitive answers. And that's what makes all of this so frustrating to old-time researchers such as myself. But I also want to make something else clear. My main area of expertise and knowledge went from 1965 to 80, then from 80 until just maybe 2 years ago when I started research and doing my current book. I was involved in other things, so I wasn't deeply in research, although I continue collecting many reports and newspaper clippings and stuff like that, and a few occasional documented reports from field investigators. But most of my experience comes from the period 1965 to 1980 until now.
When you saw, and let's go back to the 70s, the movie Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
Yeah, it came out in 73, I believe, yeah.
And you saw that movie.
I contributed a couple of cases I had gotten from NICAP to Ann Spielberg, the director's sister. She thanked me for them, but that's all. And then, of course, J. Allen Hynek showed up in that picture after the aliens landed. He showed up as one of the scientists, but it was very brief. He was only in the movie, a few seconds, really.
No, and I understand that. But when you look at that movie and all the research you guys had done up until that point, how realistic was Close Encounters to what you felt was the true extraterrestrial experience people were having?
Oh, gosh. I don't know. It's hard to say because it was a fictional movie, but they tried to get some of the science right, which I think they did, and Hynek helped them with that because he was really, as a matter of fact, I was involved, which I have in my book too, with doing some work with Dr. Frederick Ordway. Now, he came into the NICAP offices in 1967, wanted to talk with Kehoe, but Kehoe was in Luray, Virginia, 100 miles away. So I was the assistant, the associate director, the vice president at the time of NICAP. So he met with me, and he said that he was doing a movie with Stanley Kubrick called 2001: A Space Odyssey. And his main concern was he wanted to talk to us about getting some UFO sighting reports and also about how astronauts could possibly survive in years-long journeys into space, sometimes maybe 100 years before they got to a planet or a solar system they wanted to investigate. And I suggested the possibility of cryonic interment. Now, Dr. Leslie Caburn of our Los Angeles subcommittee, NICAP at the time, was doing some work in that area. And in fact, Ted Williams, the famous baseball player, was frozen in cryonic interment in the hopes that he could thaw out later when a cure was discovered for his disease. Well, experiments were done in that area for several years, but then they found out that it just wasn't going to work. But anyhow, Dr. Ordway, after talking with me, went there And they used that idea of cryonic interment at the very beginning of the film. So when after the monkeys stopped throwing things in the air at the introduction to the film, you saw these astronauts emerge from these sealed coffins, and then you saw sort of a mist rise up, and that supposedly was the idea of using cryonic interment, which originally came from me and Dr. Caburn in Los Angeles. So
when you look at a lot of these Hollywood movies that have portrayed extraterrestrials, there's a lot of info and a lot of people in this community who have been voices, whether it's, Travis Walton's experience or even the Independence Day films, Close Encounters, E.T. We all know what Ronald Reagan had allegedly stated to Steven Spielberg. When you look at all of these,
Carter, of course, had his sighting, which is in my book too. Mm-hmm.
When you look at all of this, do you think these are just real public drips from the government that people are trying to lap up, that this is a real phenomena and this is the way they're breaking it, is through things like Hollywood movies or video games?
That's an interesting question. I don't really know. It's always puzzled me, what is the big secret about it? Why? The only thing I can come back to is that same old thing that I only began really believing fully in when I started writing my last book, and which was a little more than a year ago. And I still believe that the main reason is that, and I don't have a way of proving this, but I still believe the main reason is that we have been in contact with extraterrestrials as early as the Roswell case in 1947, in July of 1947, and that we've been sharing the technology with them since, and that might be part of what may be continuing in the AATIP program, the Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program, because Bigelow did say that he was setting up a series of warehouses in Las Vegas where things that were picked up at crash and retrieval cases could be stored. But why not just come out and say, yes, we think that there have been UFOs that have crashed on Earth, and here's the evidence. But for some reason, they want to just sort of nip at public interest and see what comes out before they release all this information. And I don't understand exactly why, but my own final opinion is that I think it may well be because we have a thing with the extraterrestrials themselves, that as long as we can learn from their technology and possibly they can learn something from ours as well, that we not reveal this information. But it's been going on a long time, if that's the case, perhaps even before the Kenneth Arnold sighting of 1947. Because there were a number of sightings in World War II, even World War I. I even have in my book a case of a case in 17th century Massachusetts where a man was rowing a barge up the muddy river, or down the muddy river in Massachusetts with a couple of more crew members, and this disc came out of the sky, hovered over them, and started pulling the barge upstream. And guess where I found this? In the National Archives in Washington, D.C.
Wow.
And I also found a case of a whaling captain about 1840 who saw in the National Archives, in his handwriting, original handwriting, in which a UFO came down near his ship, went down into the water, came back up again, and then the water dripped off the bottom of it, and it flew up in the sky and disappeared. When you find stuff like that in such unexpected areas as the National Archives, you tend to believe there's really something to the subject that we aren't being told, you know, and that there are historical cases like this. I mean, there was widespread sightings, sort of what they called airship sightings in 1896 and 97, which I have in the first 2 chapters of my first book on the subject, Mysteries of the Skies, UFOs in Perspective. And I also did
yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah. I also wrote the first book ever on strange effects from UFOs, in which NICAP was willing to admit that they had actual occupant cases that they were holding back because Kehoe didn't want to, still wanted to get additional scientific hearings on the subject through Congress. So he was very careful about that, but I think he did a little bit of a disservice by not releasing that information sooner. What difference it would have made then, I don't know. I can't really speculate on that, but I think it may have. At least it would have given the latest congressional hearing in 1968 something more to talk about.
No kidding. No kidding. I want to get to after the break here. You know, and I realize this really it's on topic, but kind of off topic. But, you know, 50 plus years of research, you have to have a couple of incredible stories to share with our audience after the break. And I got to hit you up on that. I completely do. You know, because there has to be some pretty interesting phenomena that you have uncovered over time. You know, that's outside of the internet range or days where there is, you know, all of this CGI and all of these fake videos and everything. But I'm going to get you to hold on. Gordon Lohr is our guest tonight. He is the author of Flying Saucers from Beyond the Earth, a UFO researcher's odyssey. Highly suggest you pick it on up. GordonLohr.com is the website. We'll be back with hour number 2 of Spaced Out Radio right after this. Looking for the stories of the strange and weird that you will find hard to find anywhere else? Check out the SOR Newswire on our website. Our writers, led by Captain Shirk, are scouring the world for the oddest and most bizarre stories we can find. Everything from weird crime to suspenseful and paranormal. We're working hard for you to bring you the most intriguing news of your day. Check out the SOR Newswire at spacedoutradio.com today.
Every night on Spaced Out Radio, we have places for you to hang out. Hi, this is Carl. Join our SOR Space Travelers group on Facebook for live chat. On Twitter, using hashtag Spaced Out Radio. You can also join us in our Spreaker chat room. Check us out on Instagram at Dave Scott SOR. All of our archives are free on YouTube at Spaced Out Radio. By the way, I'll be watching you at your window until you do. Bye!
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio Live with Dave Scott on the Deep Talk Radio Network.
Find your escape where time has no limits. It's about living today and cherishing the heritage of yesterday. A spirit of adventure for what is new with the nostalgia of the past. Your timepiece is a reflection of who you are. Life surrounded by beauty from the world around us to the soul within. EscapeWatches.com. There is no time like the present to enjoy your escape. Use promo code SMF2017 for your 20% discount today.
You know, it's hard being the bad man of ufology, but that's just the way that I like it. This is Chris George Zuger, and I'll be hanging out with Dave Scott and SOR scientist Chris Cogswell for Reality Paranormal, the second Wednesday of every month. And our job is to break it down and come to conclusions as to what is really going on in the supernatural world. I'd love for you to join us right here on Spaced Out Radio.
Visit purpleplates.com today. For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great genius Nikola Tesla, the harmony, healing, and energetic effects of the plates have proven over and over to be beneficial and often miraculous to thousands of customers. Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many energy products. You won't be sorry. Visit them today at purpleplates.com.
The Call of the Wild is in Vancouver. The Moose Vancouver is one of the hottest bars and restaurants in the city. Open until 2 a.m. nightly, the Moose will rock you like a hurricane all night long. Great food with everything on the menu at $6.95 near the corner of Nelson and Granville. Get your horns up and come rock with us. The Moose Vancouver, the official rocking bar of Spaced Out Radio.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7, with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
On the first Tuesday of every month, I encourage you to come along for a journey with me, Geraldine Orozco, on The Spiritual You. Together, we will take a look at how to access the highest expression of yourself and change your life. Consciousness, ET contact, health, and wellness, we can talk about it all. So come along for a spiritual ride with me, Geraldine Orozco, on The Spiritual You, only on Spaced Out Radio.
Get your horns up with me on Spaced Out Radio. This is Ron Bumblefoot Thal. Come tune in to SOR where you can hear me rock out with Little Brother Is Watching, the official theme song of Spaced Out Radio. And then come on over to bumblefoot.com where you can find out about my tour schedule, my music, and everything else. Bumblefoot.com keeps you up to date on what I'm doing and the best way to stay in touch with my music and music camps. Sign up for my newsletter at bumblefoot.com and remember, Little Brother Is Watching.
Hey, this is Canadian Paranormal Investigator Mike Moore. The third Wednesday of every month, I'll be teaming up with Dave Scott to bring you Ghosts of the Great White North. Each month, we will bring on guests from across Canada to discuss their ghostly encounters. Canada is a paranormal hotbed with stories you've never heard, so we're going to bring them to you. So get comfy on your Chesterfield, grab a donut, and join us, eh?
Do you want to know what's really going on in your world? Do you have questions about who you can trust in the mainstream media? Then look no further than the Rebel Planet. Come get the straight answers right here at spacedoutradio.com. Join me, Jamie Sexton, creator of Rebel Planet News, as I fill you in on the stories behind the stories. All you truth seekers, be sure to tune in to Rebel Planet on spacedoutradio.com the third Thursday of every month.
The freedom to post what you want, when you want. That's the social media freedom you need. Social Media Freedom is the free app in your app store. No need to worry about going to jail or being shadow banned any longer. It's the freedom to say what you feel. The freedom to know Big Brother isn't watching. It's the way social media is supposed to be. Social Media Freedom. It's time to set yourself free. Download from your app store today.
Looking for a place to advertise at a very reasonable cost? Look no further than Spaced Out Radio. SpacedOutRadio.com has an advertising tab that you can click to check out our daily, weekly, and monthly packages to play on the radio, or our website including social media. From commercial spots to banners, we have it all. Check out our competitive pricing today.
You hear footsteps in the empty room above you. A rocking chair begins rocking by itself. Don't be afraid of the things that go bump in the night. Reach for Spirit Storybox, the iPhone app the Huffington Post UK called the only ghost hunting app you will ever need. Spirit Storybox. The spirits are telling their stories. Are you listening?
We are getting ready to relaunch the SOR Space Travelers Club at spacedoutradio.com. For $5 a month, you can join us for a plethora of features found nowhere else. Hang out in a private chat room during the show and after party. You can check out some exclusive content and a store specifically for you, as well as a private listener forum where you can post your thoughts, stories, and pictures. The SOR Space Travelers Club, coming soon to spacedoutradio.com.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott. Follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Facebook, Spaced Out Radio Show.
Welcome back to hour number 2 of Spaced Out Radio. Tonight I am your host, Dave Scott. Thank you for being with us. This weekend, while I am off finding my Zen and my Chi and maybe some Sasquatch in the forest, Tessa Nicole Thomas is back with Spaced Out Weekend. She gets going at 9 o'clock Pacific, 12 a.m. Eastern at spacedoutradio.com. We welcome back everyone listening in on the SOR Radio Network and Deep Talk Radio. Don't forget, all of our archives are free at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey a favor here and hit that subscribe button. Bill Cardwell has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Thiazole dined. I knew I would butcher it. Darn it. Thiazole dinediones. I think that's it. Thiazole dinediones is your password. Make sure you use it wisely, space travelers, as Bill sets the password each and every night right here on the mighty SOR. God, I hate Friday night passwords. Hate them. Nonetheless, our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you. You can rock out to Bumblefoot soon, shop at our brand new Spaced Out Radio store. It is being built as we speak. And read up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire by clicking on the news section of our website. Tonight we are talking with Gordon Lohr. He is a great author and researcher in the field of ufology. His latest book, Flying Saucers from Beyond the Earth, a UFO Researcher's Odyssey. It can be found at gordonlohr.com. I highly suggest you go and check it on out. Mr. Lohr, welcome back to the show.
Thank you. Glad to be with you.
50-plus years of research, half a century. I'm sure it doesn't feel that long, but there's got to be one or two. Okay, go ahead.
As I mentioned before, not really 50 years, but my main research thing was from 1965 to 80, and then from about 80 to just a few years ago, I went on to other things. I spent like 15 years as a writer, editor, and publisher of books in the kidney disease and renal transplantation field. And I got into a couple of other fields as well. So it was really the period 65 to 80 that I did most of my research. But that was the early formative period. But then people like Fran Ridge and Jan Aldridge and Barry Greenwood and even Ray Fowler now that I used to interact with back in the NICAP days, along with Fran Ridge, have done a wonderful job in investigating sightings from right up to the present day, and they're still investigating UFO reports from around the world and putting out good information about them. So I'm kind of a... Yeah.
So going back in history, though, because you're still involved for... even though you may have shifted gears a little bit, you're still kind of involved in the UFO scene. Out of all those times, are there one or two stories that you could share that really stick out for you in regards to investigative reports that you followed?
Well, I was my main job at NICAP headquarters was not as an in the field investigator, but as somebody who actually did two things. I was responsible for heading the 35 or so investigating subcommittees around the world, and as reports came in, I would make an evaluation. Well, is this report worthy to send out for further investigation, or is it not? Now, the majority of reports they got in, we put on the not side, but there was a smaller minority of reports that looked like they were really good possible bona fide UFO cases. And so I would outline, well, where, in what state, or even in what country. Now, Julian Hennessy was responsible for the UFO European subcommittee thing, and that actually went to Australia. But we have people like Fran Ridge, who was responsible for one subcommittee, a number in Florida and other places. So we would send out reports that we thought warranted investigative follow-up on that. But there was one case I got in on the Thomas Mantell case when I first started my own UFO organization, and that was in 1970. And in early 1971, I received a report from a retired Lieutenant Colonel E. Garrison Wood, and in 2 lengthy phone calls, there was a case in 1947, or 1948, actually, it was January 1948, when a Thomas Mantell, now he was the only known Air Force pilot or pilot of any kind who was apparently killed while chasing a UFO, although there was no indication that the UFO itself was to blame. But he, are you familiar with that case at all?
No, fill me in.
Yeah, well, he said Thomas Mantell was a member of the Kentucky National Guard at the time of their patrol plane, and this was January 1948. And Lieutenant Colonel Garrison Wood read the first edition of my UFO Research Associates newsletter and was impressed by it and gave me a call. And then we discussed the case. He said that he was at that site at the time. It was near Godman Field, near Fort Knox in Kentucky. And when a highway patrol officer said they observed an object up to about 30 feet in diameter near Madisonville. And other reports came in from around Irvington and Owensburg and other places. And it was seen in the early afternoon, although Garrison Wood thought it was more like 11:45 a.m. rather than early afternoon in the p.m., when observers saw an object with a flaming red cone trailing a gaseous green mist. And then one witness said the UFO came to the ground and sped off to an altitude of 10,000 feet at speeds greater than 500 miles per hour. And then Kentucky National Guard Mustangs, I think there were 3 of them, including Mantell, scrambled, and Mantell said the UFO was, quote, metallic and of tremendous size, end quote, he said. But Colonel Wood also saw the object. He told me that Mantell said, "I'm not gaining on it." Mantell chased the object, then at 25,000 feet he had hypoxia, which is losing his oxygen, and fatally lost consciousness, and he crashed on a farm south of Franklin, Kentucky. The Air Force explained it as a U.S. Navy skyhook weather balloon, but they couldn't explain how the balloon could travel at 500 miles per hour, which was Mantell's investigation of it, and Mantell still couldn't catch him in his plane. So how could a skyhook balloon possibly travel that fast? The answer is it couldn't. And then Fran Ridge got into investigating that case later on, years later, and showed that a UFO had been seen in the area, and there were skyhook balloons that were released, but there was no way that that could be the answer to the case. And the base commander, Colonel Guy Hicks, said he saw the object through binoculars, and he said it had a sort of a red border at the bottom, and it remained still for a long time and then took off and disappeared. And Ridge and Barry Greenwood and others did an in-depth investigation, and came up with some answers of their own. And I have that report somewhere, but I don't have it right with me. But Mantell was a highly decorated World War II veteran. He even participated in the D-Day invasion of Europe in June the 6th, 1944. And was a highly decorated World War II veteran. So you have people like that kept reporting cases that for some reason the Air Force either covered up or wasn't able to, or wasn't willing to report overall. And I still believe the Air Force knows a lot more about the extraterrestrial origin of these things than they're still willing to tell the people in the United States. That's part of the reason why the man who's heading the AATIP program now, Robert Bigelow, called the U.S. the most backward country in the world on the UFO issue.
That is very true. Very true.
Yeah, right.
Going over
here again, my main...
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, here again, my main matter of expertise was not in-field investigations, although I did several of those, but it was leading investigations with these subcommittees in other areas, and also being the associate editor of the NICAP publication of the UFO Investigator from the period when I took over as the vice president of NICAP, 1967, to the closing of NICAP when it was, I'm convinced, was taken over by the CIA in 1969, and Kehoe and I were summarily fired. And then the organization went downhill after that. It lasted for several years into the 70s, but it went totally downhill. They got rid of all the investigating subcommittees, and which was sad because, but then again, Fran Ridge and others, and CUFOS, the Center for UFO Studies in Chicago, Illinois, which Kleinig originally set up, began to get the sighting reports from NICAP investigators all around, and from NICAP itself, and began to make a full library, and both through the internet and through the Center for UFO Studies, with Mark Rodiger out there, who took over after Dr. Hynek died. And there was an excellent book published about him last year as well, which I still haven't gotten a hold of, I'm sorry to say.
The science behind the UFOs is something that we have struggled with. We've seen these craft do these complex maneuvers where they're going a high rate of speed and then turn at a 90-degree angle or come to an immediate stop and shoot, straight up towards the sky out of the sight lines of anybody's eyes. It's just incredible, the technology that went into this. What made that so interesting to look into?
Well, it was simply because it was something we didn't know, and probably still, and may not still know, but I think that we know a lot more than we're being told. I have to keep going back to this thing of my own belief and the belief of many others out there that something is happening that is being kept under cover at places like Area 51, Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, and other places as well. There's been some indication that other countries even have areas where they've been doing investigations with UFOs and are even possibly in contact with extraterrestrial creatures. And I think that may well be the case with us, but they just are not willing to... I think the Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program, AATIP, is another sort of almost Project Blue Book kind of thing. Now we put out a Project Grudge and Blue Book case for the first time using the Freedom of Information Act in 1968. And Dr. James McDonald wrote an excellent introduction of that, saying it was a real boon to UFO literature at that time. But there's been so much more that has developed, which I think has been hidden from us. But people like Francis Ridge and others are doing an excellent job on trying to get that information out as much as they can. But there have been cases with UFOs that moved at very high velocities with no visible signs of propulsion, as Robert Bigelow said, put out himself. Now, whether this is a teaser and they're like going to like the UFO Colorado Project or Project Blue Book, whether they're going to come out with a report eventually that'll say, yes, we have this information, here it is, scientists should study it, etc. But we're still at that point where we still need to get a body of scientists like, that Jim McDonald was trying to do. And he was ready to write his own book on the subject. He told Dick Hall and myself when he spent the night at our home, the home of my wife and I, and Dick Hall was there. And then less than 2 months later, he was found killed in the desert, supposedly committed suicide. Now, Ann Druffel wrote an excellent book about his life and work called Firestorm, Dr. James E. McDonald's Fight for UFO Science. And so that's pretty much where it lays. It's still in that gray area of what the public doesn't know may or may not hurt them kind of thing, or may or may not hurt what is possibly going on between the governments of the earth, particularly the U.S. government, maybe the Soviet government as well. And there was a lot going on between the U.S. and the Soviets, even back in the 1970s, not only related to UFOs, but to psychic phenomena. Matter of fact, I even wrote a top-secret report for the Reagan White House on how they might spot potential terrorists at such venues as bus stations, train stations, and airports. And we came up with the idea that through auras emitting from people's heads, which actually top experts are trained at, might hold a case to it. And Nancy Reagan liked it and gave us the go-ahead, but then the project fell through because the person running the project was not good at keeping secrets. So things like that have been going on off and on. That's the only one I was really involved in, with UFOs as well. So there's a number of things going on that we still are not privy to. I'm just hoping this AATIP program may be something that would come out with something positive. And here again, I still believe we've been in contact with extraterrestrials, and that we may well be sharing our information with them as they are with us.
When you look at and the people that you were around during that 15 years, there's a lot of astrophysicists there, nuclear physicists, and people who were absolutely brilliant in their field, some of the most brilliant at that time. What was their opinion of these craft, how they were able to get here, how they were able to maneuver the way they have, and that we're still seeing today, that just astounds so many different people?
Well, I would, as I say again, that at that time we weren't into that as far as the really scientific way. I'm not sure we still are. I think we're still negotiating. We might possibly, I don't know for sure, but I think we might possibly still be negotiating with extraterrestrial beings themselves as to how this might be and how we can make longer journeys into space beyond 2001: A Space Odyssey, you know, and that how we might be able to use ET, extraterrestrial knowledge and ours combined to help improve conditions on Earth, but how to further our long space flights to other planets where we might learn new things. And there was even some talk about possibility years ago about the possibility if Earth went under for whatever reason, through a nuclear holocaust, which seems to be past now, or some other reason, we began to investigate how we might settle someplace else on another planet and another, if not in our own solar system, possibly in another. And but I don't know for sure. I've never been privy to that myself. I'm not sure that Hynek was, or Vallée was, or even Jim McDonnell was. But it was scientists like them that really kept the subject alive among their scientific peers. And it was tough going, because back in the 60s, a lot of scientists just weren't willing to even think about investigating the case. But it was Jim McDonnell and later Hynek and others who began to turn that around. And maybe this new AATIP program will provide us for things that we didn't know before. But we're all frustrated because they don't seem to be keeping it in the public eye. But I understand they still have offices in the Pentagon.
Well, I mean, as we prepare to go to our break here at the bottom of the hour in about 75 seconds here, there is a lot of information that is out there regarding what people have seen, but there isn't a lot of information regarding what we actually know. Do you see that coming out? Do you see that coming out in the next 5 to 20 years?
I thought it was going to start coming out, as early as, say, 1967. I remember there was a huge flap in 66 and 67. And it was all over the world. People were seeing UFOs all over the world. And I stayed up until like 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning at NICAP headquarters fielding calls and being on radio programs from as far away as Australia and Germany and places like that. And the mailman would bring in every morning, and sometimes even in the afternoon, sacks full of mail, hundreds, sometimes thousands of letters that people. This was in the days before the internet, before email. You know, you still had to write a letter and to get information around.
I get you there, my friend. I'm going to have to cut you off right there because we're going to go to break here at the bottom of the hour. Gordon Lore, GordonLore.com is his website. More UFO talk on Spaced Out Radio right after this.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio Live with Dave Scott on the Deep Talk Radio Network.
Are you tired of being blocked, shadow banned, or placed in jail for simply posting your thoughts on social media? Social Media Freedom can take care of that for you. Social Media Freedom is the newest and one of the best free new apps that allows you the freedom to post what you want, when you want. It takes seconds to download from your app store. Come join the tribe at Social Media Freedom. It's time to set yourself free.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment. including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
Looking for a place to advertise at a very reasonable cost? Look no further than Spaced Out Radio. SpacedOutRadio.com has an advertising tab that you can click to check out our daily, weekly, and monthly packages to play on the radio, or our website including social media. From commercial spots to banners, we have it all. Check out our competitive pricing today.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7, with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
Visit purpleplates.com today. For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great genius Nikola Tesla, the harmony, healing, and energetic effects of the plates have proven over and over to be beneficial and often miraculous to thousands of customers. Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many energy products. You won't be sorry. Visit them today at purpleplates.com.
You know, it's hard being the bad man of ufology, but that's just the way that I like it. This is Chris George Zuger, and I'll be hanging out with Dave Scott and SOR scientist Chris Cogswell for Reality Paranormal, the second Wednesday of every month. And our job is to break it down and come to conclusions as to what is really going on in the supernatural world. I'd love for you to join us right here on Spaced Out Radio.
Hello, this is your guitar man, Ron Bumblefoot Thal, and I have to tell you, I love the response I get for Little Brother is Watching from Spaced Out Radio fans. It's amazing how music can inspire and make people think deeper about what's going on in the supernatural world. You can head over to my website, bumblefoot.com, to check out my music, my guitar workshops, my touring, even check out some of the hot sauces that I'm working on. And make sure you keep on listening, because with Spaced Out Radio, you know Little Brother is watching.
Hi there, this is Geraldine Orozco from San Francisco's Bay Area Meditation. I invite you to join me the first Tuesday of every month with Dave Scott for Spaced Out Radio's The Spiritual You. In this fast-paced world we live in, it's time for you to take some time for you. We'll cover every possible subject, from powerful meditation to healing techniques to your own intuition and spirituality. So come join us for The Spiritual You.
Coming soon to our website, spacedoutradio.com, is the SOR Space Travelers Club. For just $5 a month, you can get into a private area on our site where you can hang with other listeners in our chat room, post in our forum, and check out a bunch of exclusive content and store that won't be found anywhere else, including a nightly after-show party with Dave. It's going to be the best $5 a month you're going to spend. The SOR Space Travelers, only at spacedoutradio.com.
A timepiece is a reflection of who you are, and what better way to show off the real you than with an Escape watch? Escape is a lifestyle brand accessorizing your days and nights. Choose to escape and create the life of discovery that you deserve. Dream, play, unite with your own personalized Escape watch. Head to escapewatches.com. There is no time like the present to enjoy your escape. Use promo code SMF2017 for your 20% discount today.
Heading to Vancouver and looking for a night on the town? The Moose Vancouver is the bar that never stops rocking until 2 a.m. every night. The Moose has great food with everything on the menu from $6.95 to $8.95. Fantastic, vibrant staff and rock and roll that will bring you back to when the music was real, the hair was long, and the guitars were rocking. Get your party on at the Moose Vancouver, the official party bar of Spaced Out Radio.
Did you know Spaced Out Radio runs 7 days a week? Hi there, this is Tessa Nicole Thomas, and I'm here to take you on a paranormal journey each Saturday and Sunday night. Why change the station when you have it all right here? Together, we'll hang out and share some strange and scary stories. And don't forget, we have Psychic Sundays as well, so come tune in Spaced Out Weekend. We get going at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, only at spacedoutradio.com, where we own the night.
We're bringing scientific thought to the paranormal. Hi there, this is Spaced Out Radio scientist Chris Cogswell. Join me, Chris Zuger, and Dave Scott the second Wednesday of every month, where we break down the who from the woo when it comes to everything paranormal. We'll investigate and try to bring sensible answers to those straight and sometimes outlandish questions people have. Hey, not everything has an answer, but we'll do our best. Listen in to Reality Paranormal only on Spaced Out Radio.
You hear footsteps in the empty room above you. A rocking chair begins rocking by itself. Don't be afraid of the things that go bump in the night. Reach for Spirit Storybox, the iPhone app the Huffington Post UK called the only ghost hunting app you will ever need. Spirit Storybox. The spirits are telling their stories. Are you listening?
Welcome back. We're past the halfway point of Spaced Out Radio tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott. Thank you so much for tuning us in tonight. We're talking with Gordon Lohr, author of a couple of really cool UFO books. His latest, Flying Saucers from Beyond the Earth, a UFO researcher's odyssey that you want to get. GordonLohr.com is his website. Mr. Lohr, welcome back to the show.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you.
I got to do a little bit of a 180 here with you because we've been talking UFOs. But in my research leading up to this show, I saw something that kind of caught me off guard. I really didn't know that you were actually contacted by Stanley Kubrick's team about the 2001 Space Odyssey.
I was. And if you want, I can read you about a page and a half from my book, which explains it very well, I think.
Sure.
Can I do that?
Yeah, go right ahead.
Okay, now 2001, A Space... Chapter 10 in my book is called 2001, A Space Odyssey, the Titusville Humanoid and Beyond. And under 2001, A Space Odyssey, sometime during the spring of 1967, I received a call at NICAP headquarters from Dr. Frederick Ordway III. He told me he was working with famed space pioneer Wernher von Braun at NASA's Marshall Space Flight Center. Later, he would play an important part with the Apollo space flight teams that would send astronauts to the moon. Now, that was von Braun, whom I also met one time, but I can tell you about that later. Ordway told me, he was the technical advisor with famed director Stanley Kubrick on what was destined to become a groundbreaking film that would redefine Hollywood's conception of science fiction movies, 2001: A Space Odyssey, released in the spring of 1968. He also said he was a friend of Arthur C. Clarke, whose writing inspired the film. Clarke was also working with both Kubrick and Ordway on the project. Ordway said that told me that he and Kubrick were familiar with the work and books by Major Donald Kehoe, and I quickly asked if I could have lunch with him the following day to discuss his work on the film. And I quickly agreed, since Kehoe couldn't make it because he lived 100 miles away. Then early the next afternoon, we met at a nearby restaurant, and Ordway told me that Kubrick was a stern taskmaster and put everything he had into one of his films, and he expected others who worked with him to do the same. And Ordway even told me that he and his family had moved to a huge studio in England where Kubrick was filming the movie on a mammoth elaborate set. Quote, every detail of the movie has to be as near to perfect as it can possibly be, end quote, Ordway said. And then he added that Kubrick and Arthur Clarke had been interested in UFOs and the possibility that some of the reports may constitute alien beings surveying Earth. And he added that both he and Kubrick had read one or more of Kehoe's books and would like to have met him. And it was then I told him that Kehoe lived in Luray, Virginia, and was not a regular visit to NICAP headquarters. And Ordway said he and Kubrick wanted to garner some thoughts about how astronauts could survive years-long journeys to other planets or solar systems. I answered that my own theory had to do with the possibility of cryonic interment. And this was in vogue at the time with experiments in Southern California and elsewhere. In theory, astronauts could be frozen in coffin-like containers and later thawed out and revived when they were nearing a distant planet or star system. While the successful outcome of cryonic interment had never been perfected then or now, some people had been cryonically frozen, including baseball great Ted Williams. The theory was that those who died of a particular fatal disease could later be revived and survive once a cure for that disease could be found. I knew that Dr. Leslie Caburn, a scientific member of NICAP's Los Angeles subcommittee, had done some research on the subject, and I referred Ordway to him. And then following our lunch, Ordway thanked me and left, and I later learned he had seen Dr. Caburn, and the cryonic interment of astronauts was depicted in the early scenes of the film, which was released in April 1968. And that the work Kubrick, Clark, and Ordway did on providing as accurate as possible details in the film, I thought placed 2001: A Space Odyssey far above most other sci-fi films of that or any other area. And it still may be considered by many to be the best such film of all time. And the cinematic epic made its debut in April 1968, and exactly 50 years later, in April 2018, it once more came to the foreground and is still being considered as one of the great science fiction movies. But I had a little bit in playing a part in at least the very first part of the astronauts' voyage into distant planets after the film got started. And I was kind of proud of that. Although it was a minor a minor part compared to Ordway's investigation of it. But I did meet the Werner von Braun one time because I was in the U.S. Army, and I was one of the persons picked from Fort Belvoir in Virginia to be an honored guest at the release of the movie I Aim at the Stars, which starred Kurt Jurgens as Werner von Braun, and how von Braun began as a Nazi with the Peenemünder rockets that were sent to London, the V-1, V-2 rockets that were sent to London to bomb London, but was later transferred to the United States, as the U.S. did in many cases with a number of scientists, even Nazi scientists, to have them work on our space program. And his movie premiered in 1960 at a movie theater in Washington, D.C., and I was lucky enough to be one of the soldiers picked to a long line of celebrities. I even shook hands with Mamie Eisenhower. The president, Dwight Eisenhower, was supposed to be there, but he had to cancel it the last time. So, and then General Benjamin Groves, who was the honcho of the Manhattan Project to develop the atomic bomb, was there as well. And I met Kurt Jurgens, and I met Werner von Braun, who the movie was about. And that was a very exciting time at that movie premiere. And I always remember that.
I bet it was.
Yeah.
Being the fact that you got to work on a Kubrick movie, I'm sure you've been asked this question a million times, but I'll ask it for my listeners. There's always the subject of whether or not Kubrick helped NASA fake the moon landings. Now, I personally believe that we did make it to the moon. What's your thoughts?
Oh yeah,
on that?
I have no doubt about that at all. And we, I mean, what about all the other times we made it to the moon? That wasn't the first time, you know. And on July 20th of 1968, I believe it was. Yeah. And no, 1969. I'm sorry. It was July 20th, 1969, because we just barely made it to the moon when, because Kennedy had promised that we would make it to the moon in the decades of the 1960s, and we made it there with about 5 months to spare. So, but I have no doubt that it was a real moon landing. I don't think it was anything. I don't think it was faked at all. But what about the other moon landings after that, and the knowledge after that? There's too much evidence to refute that.
Yeah, and that is the big question as to whether or not, you know, he was involved, because, you know, the conspiracy theorists out there like to believe that Kubrick's the one who actually filmed it, because some of the filming looks like it's on a lighting stage. But, you know, that would have been around the same time as 2001 Space Odyssey as well.
Yeah, although 2000 Space Odyssey came out the year before that, but it was around that same time period. Yeah, sure, within those couple of years range there. Yes, indeed.
Now, you mentioned that you briefly met Wernher von Braun. What was that like?
No, just briefly. It was just standing in a line, shaking hands with him, as I did with Mamie Eisenhower, Dr. Benjamin Groves, the Manhattan Project, certain senators and others. So I didn't have a chance to really converse with him. All I did was just shake hands with him, and that was it, you know.
Either way, though, I mean, getting to meet that legend. Legend.
He was certainly a legend, yeah. I mean, he started out bad. He started out as a Nazi, you know, bombing London with his rockets from Peter Munder. And, but like we did with so many of the... I don't know how many, but there were. I know there were some. Wernher von Braun was probably the top of the list as the main scientist that we brought over to, and then we put him in charge and actually doing the Apollo and other programs that eventually sent us to the moon. So it was an exciting time for me as well. Those 5 years, and then even some of the years after that, once I left the Army, I met.
I think we lost his phone line. Phone drops out. So we're going to get him right back here. Bear with me. We're working on it.
Oh, did you get me?
Yeah, I got you. You had forewarned me your phone might drop out, and it did. But that's okay. We got you.
Sorry about that.
Oh, that's quite all right.
But we lasted, 2.5 hours before it did, almost.
Almost.
I hope we don't do it again. I know. Okay, where were we? I'm a little confused right now.
Well, that's all right. I want to take it back to your book here, because you were formerly in the media, right? And what was the media attitude of the subject of UFOs back in the golden era, as it's been called, of ufology?
Well, I wasn't in the media, because there was very little media at the time, because, as I say, we still didn't have a lot of, we didn't have the internet and email and all that kind of stuff. The media was mainly the newspapers were the main source, but then some TV and radio, of course. And I was on a lot of radio programs back in the 60s as well. But the the attitude of the media generally I found to be fairly fair. It was a lot of the actual scientists and others who seemed to negate the subject, and McDonald did so much to get fellow scientists to begin looking at the subject. And I think even Hynek, there was a famous case where and I think it happened because I discussed it with Hynek and Valet back in Chicago when I met them, where McDonald came in and slammed his fist down on Hynek's desk and said, "How could you, Alan, not take a more scientific stand on this subject?" And I think Hynek kind of got peeved at that, but later he reduced it. He came down from that and began his turnaround. It was about 1967, and I have this in my book, that Hynek began to show first signs of turning around and calling for a scientific investigation of it, when all he did before was poo-poo it. And Major Kehoe, in some of his articles, began to turn his thoughts around about Hynek and praise him for coming out. And I have that in my book as well. But sometimes it takes things like that to make some scientists, and McDonald got very discouraged at times. I had a number of discussions with him, even at our home, where he was banging his fists on the desk and says, "Why can't these scientists look at some of these good reports instead of just poo-pooing them as soon as they began reading them, And I said, "That's a good question. Isn't that what scientists are supposed to do? They're supposed to look at all sides of a question and then come up with learned answers. If you don't study a subject first, how can you come up with credible scientific answers about that subject?" And that's what McDonald was so frustrated by. I think that there's been a lot more progress in that area, but there's still a large body of scientists out there that even today refuse to think that there's anything valid that can be learned from UFO sightings. And here again, I think the government has known all along that there is, and are quite possibly been in contact with extraterrestrial beings and working on subjects we can share with each other.
We only got about 4 minutes here before we have to go to break at the top of the hour. And the reason why I brought up the media is because I know that you, I believe, took in a couple of the congressional hearings in the mid-'60s in regards to the UFO phenomena. And I'm wondering, I realized the media was different. It was mainly print media. Television was just really getting into it. There was no internet. Radio, of course, was there. But what do you think was the difference between the way it was handled in the 60s comparatively to the way it's handled today?
Oh, gosh. I don't know how it's handled today. That's the problem. See, that the AATIP program is just not giving us detailed information. And I've talked with Jan Alders, Barry Greenwood, and others, Fran Ridge, and that they all seem to be chagrined at not receiving more information about it. Even Project Blue Book, even though they put out a lot of negative information, at least was releasing some reports on what was going on. What's going on right now with the AATIP program, nobody really seems to know outside of maybe the people that are having the program. And so we're beginning to think that maybe this program, like Project Blue Book and Project Grudge and others that have been set up in the past, are just another way of turning the public away from what they are really doing in the subject. But they're giving little tidbits of information in the program itself. They gave some pretty spectacular sightings of some things that were happening, including a UFO that came down and buzzed the USS Nimitz. Nimitz. I think that was in 2004, if I'm not mistaken. But let me see. I'm trying to turn a page here. Now, Senator Harry Reid, Democrat of Nevada, was a member who began working with people to set up this new AATIP program, Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program. Why they call it Advanced Aerospace Threat? That almost there seems to say, what threat? You know, are ETs threatening us? If so, why haven't we heard about it before? And that it ran for a reported 5 years, from the 2007 to 2012, and then at a cost of $22 million. But it's still going on. And a crack team at the New York Times broke the news of the well-hidden effort. But it's still going on through the AATIP program now. And apparently it's still the Stars of the Academy, which Robert Bigelow is apparently the head of, but he was also the head of AATIP. So what is going on there, I'm not quite sure. I don't have a real handle on that, but I think that they are still being investigated, but they're trying to lead the subject on in one direction while trying to placate them in another by saying, hey, we got this AATIP program we're investigating. But are they really? Don't they already know what is out there? And is that another way, like Project Blue Book was, or perhaps of keeping the public in the dark while they're still possibly in contact with extraterrestrial intelligences that, and for some reason, they don't want us to know, the public know about this. Maybe they're still developing ways to fly to other planets through them. I don't know. It's something we still don't know much about. Is it just another program, or will this eventually turn out to be something that's worth following up on? We still don't know that. May not know in the near future either. There seems to be a continued effort to keep the subject undercover while they're still doing investigation in the UFO field. But for what purpose if they think it's nothing to it? See, that doesn't make any sense.
Absolutely, and right there,
drop the whole thing and say that, you know.
Right there, boss. I gotta cut you off because we're going to go to break here on Spaced Out Radio.
Gotcha.
At spacedoutradio.com, we have a little bit of everything for you to stay up late. So while you're there, check out our SOR Newswire, where our team brings you stories of the weird and strange to the WTF from around the globe. News on Bigfoot, UFOs, paranormal, Darwinian-type crime tales. It's the stories that the mainstream media usually won't touch. Well, we got them all on the SOR Newswire, only at spacedoutradio.com.
Come hang out with Spaced Out Radio, where we own the night. This is Carl. You can follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, and during the show, use the hashtag Spaced Out Radio to chat with us live. On Instagram, at Dave Scott SOR. On Facebook, give our page a like, Spaced Out Radio Show. SOR archives are free on YouTube at Spaced Out Radio. Come join us, or I will come join you. See you at your window.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio Live with Dave Scott on the Deep Talk Radio Network.
The Call of the Wild is in Vancouver. The Moose Vancouver is one of the hottest bars and restaurants in the city. Open until 2 a.m. nightly, the Moose will rock you like a hurricane all night long. Great food with everything on the menu at $6.95 near the corner of Nelson and Granville. Get your horns up and come rock with us. The Moose Vancouver, the official rocking bar of Spaced Out Radio.
You know, it's hard being the bad man of ufology, but that's just the way that I like it. This is Chris George Zuger, and I'll be hanging out with Dave Scott and SOR scientist Chris Cogswell for Reality Paranormal, the second Wednesday of every month. And our job is to break it down and come to conclusions as to what is really going on in the supernatural world. I'd love for you to join us right here on Spaced Out Radio.
Hey, this is Canadian paranormal investigator Mike Moore. The third Wednesday of every month, I'll be teaming up with Dave Scott to bring you Ghosts of the Great White North. Each month, we will bring on guests from across Canada to discuss their ghostly encounters. Canada is a paranormal hotbed with stories you've never heard, so we're going to bring them to you. So get comfy on your Chesterfield, grab a donut, and join us, eh?
You hear footsteps in the empty room above you. A rocking chair begins rocking by itself. Don't be afraid of the things that go bump in the night. Reach for Spirit Storybox, the iPhone app the Huffington Post UK called the only ghost hunting app you will ever need. Spirit Storybox. The spirits are telling their stories. Are you listening?
The freedom to post what you want, when you want. That's the social media freedom you need. Social Media Freedom is the free app in your app store. No need to worry about going to jail or being shadow banned any longer. It's the freedom to say what you feel. The freedom to know Big Brother isn't watching. It's the way social media is supposed to be. Social Media Freedom. It's time to set yourself free. Download from your app store today.
Looking for a place to advertise at a very reasonable cost? Look no further than Spaced Out Radio. SpacedOutRadio.com has an advertising tab that you can click to check out our daily, weekly, and monthly packages to play on the radio, or our website including social media. From commercial spots to banners, we have it all. Check out our competitive pricing today.
Visit purpleplates.com today. For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great genius Nikola Tesla, the harmony, healing, and energetic effects of the plates have proven over and over to be beneficial and often miraculous to thousands of customers. Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many energy products. You won't be sorry. Visit them today at purpleplates.com.
Find your escape where time has no limits. It's about living today and cherishing the heritage of yesterday. A spirit of adventure for what is new with the nostalgia of the past. Your timepiece is a reflection of who you are. Life surrounded by beauty from the world around us to the soul within. EscapeWatches.com. There is no time like the present to enjoy your escape. Use promo code SMF2017 for your 20% discount today.
On the first Tuesday of every month, I encourage you to come along for a journey with me, Geraldine Orozco, on The Spiritual You. Together, we will take a look at how to access the highest expression of yourself and change your life. Consciousness, ET contact, health, and wellness, we can talk about it all. So come along for a spiritual ride with me, Geraldine Orozco, on The Spiritual You, only on Spaced Out Radio.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7, with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
Get your horns up with me on Spaced Out Radio. This is Ron Bumblefoot Thal. Come tune in to SOR where you can hear me rock out with Little Brother Is Watching, the official theme song of Spaced Out Radio. And then come on over to bumblefoot.com where you can find out about my tour schedule, my music, and everything else. Bumblefoot.com keeps you up to date on what I'm doing and the best way to stay in touch with my music and music camps. Sign up for my newsletter at bumblefoot.com and remember, Little Brother Is Watching.
Do Do you want to know what's really going on in your world? Do you have questions about who you can trust in the mainstream media? Then look no further than the Rebel Planet. Come get the straight answers right here at spacedoutradio.com. Join me, Jamie Sexton, creator of Rebel Planet News, as I fill you in on the stories behind the stories. All you truth seekers, be sure to tune in to Rebel Planet on spacedoutradio.com the third Thursday of every month.
We are getting ready to relaunch the SOR Space Travelers Club at spacedoutradio.com. For $5 a month, you can join us for a plethora of features found nowhere else. Hang out in a private chat room during the show and after party. You can check out some exclusive content and a store specifically for you, as well as a private listener forum where you can post your thoughts, stories, and pictures. The SOR Space Travelers Club, coming soon to spacedoutradio.com.
Would you like to connect with us? Head to spacedoutradio.com for all your latest show info. Now, back to Dave Scott and SOR.
Welcome back to the third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott. Thanks for being with us. This weekend, I am off finding my Zen and Chi in the forests of BC. And Tessa Nicole Thomas will be in SOR HQ with Spaced Out Weekend, Saturday and Sunday night. She gets going at 9 o'clock Pacific, midnight Eastern at spacedoutradio.com. Make sure you tune it on in. We welcome back everyone listening in on the SOR Radio Network and Deep Talk Radio. Don't forget, all of our archives are free at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do me a favor, hit that subscribe button. Bill Cardwell has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. I have no idea what this is. Thiazolidinediones. Thiazolidinediones? I have no idea. But Bill sets the password each and every night right here on the mighty SOR. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you. You can rock out to Bumblefoot, soon shop at our brand new Spaced Out Radio store. And yes, Uncle Dale, there will be Carl t-shirts there, but we're going to get a special design for that. We'll fill you in when it happens. It's going to be a couple months down the road because we got to make them look good. And, of course, Captain Shirk has our SOR Newswire up on the website as well. Just click on the News tab. For the final time tonight, we introduce Gordon Lohr. He is just an incredible ufologist, great author. You got to get his book. Go to GordonLohr.com and pick up Flying Saucers from Beyond the Earth, a UFO researcher's odyssey. It's an amazing read. I highly suggest you grab it. Gordon, welcome back.
Well, thank you very much. They can also get the book. They get autographed copies from me, or they can get them through Amazon or Barnes & Noble and a few other sites as well. So they can get them through the publisher, Bear Manor Media, at BEARMANORMEDIA.com, bearmanormedia.com. So those are all outlets from the book, for the book. And, I was going to talk a little bit about the U.S. Air Force Grudge and Blue Book reports, right, which we were able to. Now, in July 1968, we had been working on a way that we could get using the Freedom of Information Act, and that was the Freedom of Information Act was still fairly new at the time, and we were able to publish our book on the U.S. Air Force Grudge and Blue Book reports that we obtained under that act, and the reports offered some very interesting and surprising things for NICAP, and especially for Dr. Jim McDonald, who was our good friend and scientific advisor, to consider. Now, McDonald carefully studied the sighting reports and was highly impressed. It was something neither he nor NICAP had expected. Now, what he said in his report, in his introduction to the report that we set out on Project Grudge and Blue Book, he says, when one studies the curious history of Air Force handling of the UFO problem, the period from October 1951 through September 1953 emerges as a kind of heroic period of Air Force investigation. that period was the one interval during which UFOs were seriously studied and rather vigorously investigated by the U.S. Air Force. Shortly after that period, there began a sort of new dark age when debunking and superficial investigations once again came to characterize Project Blue Book's response to the UFO problem. After 1953, Blue Book went steadily downhill scientifically, and there evolved a steadily more adamant Air Force position that UFOs were only a nonsense problem. So it begs the question, what happened after 1953 to cause the Air Force to make a turnaround when they were supposedly doing a credible job of investigating UFO reports up to that time? And that's something we still don't know, because Air Force statements repeatedly misled the public, and still do, and the scientific community, by conveying a picture of Project Blue Book as a high-caliber scientific effort, drawing upon the finest scientific talents and facilities available to the Air Force. And as the next effect, at the net effect, actually, the entire UFO question has been swept entirely under the rug. Only the efforts of groups like NICAP and others, a few other reliable groups, like at the time APRO, have prevented a complete concealment of the facts about UFOs. But NICAP, through Fran Ridge again and his excellent website, are doing an excellent job of trying to advance that as well. But the march goes on, both of scientific investigation and the Air Force continuing to deny that there's really something to it, but trying to negate that, but trying to upgrade that a little bit through the AATIP program. But here again, still, why aren't they putting out more on the AATIP program?
I hear you there. I do have a question about Blue Book. Do you think Blue Book really did end in 1970, or do you think it continued under a different allocation?
I think it continued under a different allocation, but I don't know exactly what that may be. It may be this new program, AATIP, may be an offshoot of what has been going on covertly, without really keeping the public informed about it. Now, there was a lot more information in particularly newspapers back in the 60s. I mean, there were headlines in newspapers and even small-town newspapers. You don't see that anymore because you have so many other, you have so many other venues. A lot of people don't even get newspapers because they get their information from the Internet or from CNN News or something like that. But newspapers back then were a primary source of getting information, particularly about UFOs, scientists, and even the scientific investigations at the time. But there were a lot of confidential reports that were unclassified, and also secret reports that were sent to Patrick Air Force Base, for instance, or the Air Force Base in Dayton, Ohio. And that there were actually our reports that were unclassified and top secret and confidential then were relabeled unclassified when they were released to NICAP. It was the first time, to my knowledge, that those reports were brought out into the public waves because we were able to get them released through the Freedom of Information Act. And I don't know of any other way we could have done it. And that act is still, as a matter of fact, the guy that runs the Black Vault, what's his name
John
again?
Greenwald.
John Greenwald. Yeah, has done the same thing. I mean, he's done it not only in the UFO area, but he's used the Freedom of Information Act to bring out a lot of information, in a lot of different areas that the United States government or other entities wanted to keep secret from the public. And I think he's done an incredible job on that. And Erica Luke is trying to do the same thing with the work she's doing. And other people, Fran Ridge, and Jan Aldridge and Ray Fowler and Barry Greenwood and others that work with him on a daily basis now. And I used to work with 50 years ago and still do now, but just from my home. I can't get out there and investigate things myself. I can't travel to UFOs because I just don't have the resources or the physical ability to even travel on airplanes anymore. So I wish I could be reincarnated in a new body and really get in and investigate and finally be on the be there when they finally say, yes, UFOs are real. We've been studying them for years. We've kept it hidden from the public for these reasons. Maybe they're valid reasons. Possibly they are not. I don't know at this point. But it almost backs to the movie Independence Day. I saw that again the other night. And where these secret enclaves of the government and otherwise are keeping craft that may have crashed, humanoid bodies that, may have existed at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, Area 51, and even possibly other places as well. I personally think that a lot of that is going on that we're just not being told about. And I think even that a part of our technology is beginning to surface now from things that we have learned, possibly from extraterrestrial sources. I don't have any proof of that.
Right.
I don't think Fran Ridge and the others do either, but I think the government is just not ready to tell us. But it begs the question that 50, 60 years later, why aren't they? What is going on, We're supposed to be an open government. Why don't we know more about what they're doing with this subject, which so many people are interested in, not just in the United States, but all over the world?
With tens of thousands of reports that the government allegedly has, including the 12,000 or so from Project Blue Book, what do you think people are seeing? Was it just, because back in the day, the flying saucer was the appeal. Everybody was seeing these discs, and now we have black triangles, these weird-looking cigar-shaped craft. There's a little bit of everything these days, and you don't hear about the saucer anymore.
That's very true. They come in all sizes, shapes, and possible configurations, and this big strings of lights in the sky that seem to be connected, and then they all of a sudden disappear quickly. It's not just the flying saucer anymore, or the flying disc even. It's triangles and octangles and every conceivable shape that you can think of. And a lot of them don't seem to be coming from the technology we have here on Earth. Then that begs the question, where are they coming from? What does the government know, and when are they going to be willing to break the mold and tell us about this? And maybe they have some kind of contract with the extraterrestrials that everything is to be kept secret until we learn what we need to learn. But what is that need? Is it the need to travel to other planets? How we can best do that? Planets far beyond our solar system even. But why do we need to do that? Is there some danger to Earth, for instance? Is there some reason that the Earth may be hit by a meteorite sometime, or a huge asteroid, which has happened on Earth before, but only millions of years ago? What do they know that they're not telling us? I think there's a lot, but what that is still up for debate. And why are they hiding the good UFO reports still?
What do you think they're hiding?
I don't know. I think here again, I think they may be hiding something that they already know. But for some reason, maybe it's a contract between actual extraterrestrials and the U.S. and other governments, because there have been cases of certain Roswell-like cases, even places like Russia and China and whatnot, that maybe certain members of the world's top echelon in various countries know something and may even be in contact with some extraterrestrial beings. I'm sort of leaning toward that. Now Kehoe at the time, as a matter of fact, I can read you something here. All I have to do is find it in my book here, where he, oh gosh, where is it? Bear with me for a little bit here. Colorado UFO Project, and then the McDonald factor is on page 227. So I'm trying to find something here where he was discussing that with me, but I may be looking in the wrong direction. Sorry, I'm not better prepared for this particular question.
Oh, that's all right.
Let's see. Here, I saw something here from Dr. Jacques Vallée. Actually, he gave James McDonald a final and fitting tribute in his foreword to Ann Druffel's book, Firestorm. You're familiar with her book? Have you heard of it?
Yeah.
Ann Druffel's Firestorm. He says, James McDonald's diary makes it clear that he ran into precisely the kind of doctrinaire skepticism about which Allen Hynek had warned him many years before. Perhaps it is to his credit that he still went ahead with his crusade. But his tragic end contains a warning. The notion of academic purity is nothing but a charming myth. We must deal with the scientific establishment that is extremely reluctant to take stock of a new, disturbing phenomena, just as the Church of the Middle Ages refused to consider that the Earth might be revolving around the sun. The learned clerics would not even look through their telescopes. Contemporary academics do not behave much better. They refuse to study the UFO cases selected by McDonald, just as they rejected Hynek's pleas to let him publish his best data in their official journals. A world where people like Allen Hynek are ignored, a world where someone of the caliber of James McDonald is left to die alone and misunderstood, is a world crying out for drastic reform of its intellectual institutions. The issue goes far beyond the question of knowing whether or not there are unidentified flying objects and where they may originate. What is at stake here is our own spirit and the uncertain future of human intelligence, which I thought was a brilliant summation of the work that McDonald did and his tragic ending. And the question remains among some people, including myself, did he actually commit suicide or did something else happen? I don't know.
No idea. It's kind of weird because during that time, weren't there a number of ufologists or people who were pressing the government in regards to this, all of a sudden dying mysteriously? And that seemed to happen a lot in the 80s and 90s as well.
Well, there's some question about John Mack, who was apparently supposedly killed by a driver in London or something like that, and a couple of others. I don't know of too many myself. You may know of more supposed instances like that than I do. But there were a few investigators that came to sort of untimely ends. I don't think Hynek was one of them. McDonald may have been. John Mack may have been. I just don't know. As a matter of fact, McDonald was telling Dick Hall and I only a few months before he was found dead in the desert that he had been followed around the streets of Phoenix, Arizona, near where he lived, by unmarked black vans with no license plates. And that on at least 2 occasions where he was on an airplane and he managed to set his briefcase down on the seat beside him with some UFO information in it, and the suitcase, when he picked it up again, had nothing in it but a identical suitcase was placed there, but someone had taken his suitcase, his briefcase, and had walked off with it. A passenger on the plane, obviously. So certain things like that occasionally happened, but to what purpose? I mean, it's very strange. And he actually told us about those cases. And then he was found in the desert only maybe 2 months later, dead. Now, Ann Druffel says in her book he did have sort of a depression problem on and off during his life, but he never exhibited it to us. Every time he was with us, we spent hours when he came to our home in Bethesda, whenever he came to Washington, D.C., to testify before Congress or whatever it was he came there for. And he told us then that he was ready to start writing his own book, but he maybe 2 months later he was found dead in the desert. So that raises the question: what really happened? And that could maybe be said about a few other people that have seemed to have fallen off the radar physically or whatever other way that had been investigating the subject as well. But why go to that length to take care of somebody? I mean, were these scientists that close to exposing something that the government didn't want us to know? And I think maybe they were. I think maybe that's why Kehoe and I were ousted. And I'm convinced it was taken over by the CIA. If you read my book on that chapter, it explains that and exactly what happened. They planted a staff member there who was later a CIA member, who eventually in late December of 1969, fired Kehoe and myself, and was taken over by people who had been CIA informants. Now, Kehoe himself was more or less responsible for that at the beginning, but he thought that they were really interested in getting to the truth about UFOs. His closest friend at the U.S. Naval Academy in Annapolis was Admiral Roscoe Hillenkoetter, who later became in 1947 the first director of the CIA. Then he brought aboard people like Joseph Bryan, who was a CIA operative, and then several other members as well. And he sort of stacked the board with them. But he was convinced that they were going to do a serious scientific, have a serious scientific view of the subject.
My friend,
what they were really doing is trying to keep NICAP alive so they could try to get a hold of NICAP's files and go their own way with it.
My friend, I have to say goodnight to you right there because we got to move the show on. Gordon Lohr, thank you for being on Spaced Out Radio.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio Live with Dave Scott on the Deep Talk Radio Network.
You know, it's hard being the bad man of ufology, but that's just the way that I like it. This is Chris George Zuger, and I'll be hanging out with Dave Scott and SOR scientist Chris Cogswell for Reality Paranormal, the second Wednesday of every month. And our job is to break it down and come to conclusions as to what is really going on in the supernatural world. I'd love for you to join us right here on Spaced Out Radio.
You hear footsteps in the empty room above you. A rocking chair begins rocking by itself. Don't be afraid of the things that go bump in the night. Reach for Spirit Storybox, the iPhone app the Huffington Post UK called the only ghost hunting app you will ever need. Spirit Storybox. The spirits are telling their stories. Are you listening?
Did you know Spaced Out Radio runs 7 days a week? Hi there, this is Tessa Nicole Thomas, and I'm here to take you on a paranormal journey each Saturday and Sunday night. Why change the station when you have it all right here? Together, we'll hang out and share some strange and scary stories. And don't forget, we have Psychic Sundays as well, so come tune in Spaced Out Weekend. We get going at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, only at spacedoutradio.com, where we own the night.
A timepiece is a reflection of who you are, and what better way to show off the real you than with an Escape watch? Escape is a lifestyle brand accessorizing your days and nights. Choose to escape and create the life of discovery that you deserve. Dream, play, unite with your own personalized Escape watch. Head to escapewatches.com. There is no time like the present to enjoy your escape. Use promo code SMF2017 for your 20% discount today.
Are you tired of being blocked, shadow banned, or placed in jail for simply posting your thoughts on social media? Social Media Freedom can take care of that for you. Social Media Freedom is the newest and one of the best free new apps that allows you the freedom to post what you want, when you want. It takes seconds to download from your app store. Come join the tribe at Social Media Freedom. It's time to set yourself free.
Visit purpleplates.com today. For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great genius Nikola Tesla, the harmony, healing, and energetic effects of the plates have proven over and over to be beneficial and often miraculous to thousands of customers. Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many energy products. You won't be sorry. Visit them today at purpleplates.com.
Hello, this is your guitar man, Ron Bumblefoot Thal, and I have to tell you, I love the response I get for Little Brother is Watching from Spaced Out Radio fans. It's amazing how music can inspire and make people think deeper about what's going on in the supernatural world. You can head over to my website, bumblefoot.com, to check out my music, my guitar workshops, my touring, even check out some of the hot sauces that I'm working on. And make sure you keep on listening, because with Spaced Out Radio, you know Little Brother is watching.
This is Spaced Out Radio scientist Chris Cogswell. Join me, Chris Zuger, and Dave Scott the second Wednesday of every month, where we break down the who from the woo when it comes to everything paranormal. We'll investigate and try to bring sensible answers to those straight and sometimes outlandish questions people have. Hey, not everything has an answer, but we'll do our best. Listen in to Reality Paranormal only on Spaced Out Radio.
Looking for a place to advertise at a very reasonable cost? Look no further than Spaced Out Radio. SpacedOutRadio.com has an advertising tab that you can click to check out our daily, weekly, and monthly packages to play on the radio, or our website including social media. From commercial spots to banners, we have it all. Check out our competitive pricing today.
Heading to Vancouver and looking for a night on the town? The Moose Vancouver is the bar that never stops rocking until 2 a.m. every night. The Moose has great food with everything on the menu from $6.95 to $8.95. Fantastic, vibrant staff and rock and roll that will bring you back to when the music was real, the hair was long, and the guitars were rocking. Get your party on at the Moose Vancouver, the official party bar of Spaced Out Radio.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7, with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
Coming soon to our website, spacedoutradio.com, is the SOR Space Travelers Club. For just $5 a month, you can get into a private area on our site where you can hang with other listeners in our chat room, post in our forum, and check out a bunch of exclusive content and store that won't be found anywhere else, including a nightly after-show party with Dave. It's going to be the best $5 a month you're going to spend. The SOR Space Travelers, only at spacedoutradio.com.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
Hi there, this is Geraldine Orozco from San Francisco's Bay Area Meditation. I invite you to join me the first Tuesday of every month with Dave Scott for Spaced Out Radio's The Spiritual You. In this fast-paced world we live in, it's time for you to take some time for you. We'll cover every possible subject from powerful meditation to healing techniques to your own intuition and spirituality. So come join us for The Spiritual You.
We've rounded third. We're heading for home tonight on Spaced Out Radio. And with that, we bring in the man, the myth, the Team Stump legend, Olaf Phillips from Paranoia Magazine. So much a man and a myth and a legend. He needs his own theme song. The news is always changing. From the weird, the wacky, the WTF of the week that was, we bring in Olaf Phillips. Mr. Olaf Phillips, how you doing, buddy? Good to have you back.
I'm doing all right. How are you?
Good. You accidentally had to skip out last night because I guess the fires were causing some troubles where you were.
It wasn't the fires. Well, maybe it was, but the cell tower just didn't want to work.
Man,
the cell tower was cutting in and cutting out. It was not good, man.
Oh,
I was like, dude, my people can't call me. My people can't call me. I had to raise that one up the flagpole. I made some phone calls. I was like, hey, man, Dave Scott's trying to get through. This ain't gonna cut it.
Obviously, that didn't have the pull that you were hoping.
No, but I did try.
That's all right. That's all right. How you doing? How's your week been?
Been busy, but okay. Lots of news. Lots of news everywhere.
Oh, dude. Last night we had a story about here in British Columbia. 2 guys got busted for stealing $1,400 worth of butter from a supermarket.
Oh my gosh. That's if you're going to get busted, that's what you want to get busted for lifting butter.
Exactly.
You know, I have a little bit of land up in the great state of Oregon.
Yes.
And I keep trying to decide what I want to put on it. It's a big problem. I'm not, I want to build a compound, but I'm like, but I like it being forest, Well, down the road, not exactly where my little land is, but down the road, these 2 dudes, I don't know how they did it, but they stole a cabin. They stole an entire cabin, and they moved it like 2 miles. I mean, they literally stole the entire cabin. Like, the people show up, they're like, "Where's my cabin?" It's gone. The whole thing. The whole cabin.
That's taking theft to a whole new level. New level. What do you got for us? What do you got? Yeah, butter is good. Butter is good. I mean,
love butter.
You'd think that story would come out of Florida.
You would think, but only in British Columbia.
Yeah. Let's get to the news of the night, my friend. What do you got for us?
Well, hot off the press, Taco Bell celebrates with Thanksgiving sweaters.
Nice.
Just when you didn't think it could get any better. The fast food chain Taco Bell is getting into the Thanksgiving spirit by riffing on the tradition of ugly Christmas sweaters. The chain teamed up with ugly Christmas sweater company Tipsy Elves to create 2 sweaters and 2 varieties of leggings that celebrate both Taco Bell and the tradition of Friendsgiving, a Thanksgiving dinner shared with friends instead of family. And I got to tell you, these sweaters are pretty awesome.
I want one.
One has a huge taco, and it says, "Thankful for Taco Bell."
Well, you know what's funny is I remember years ago seeing the creators of Tipsy Elves trying to launch their company on the Shark Tank.
Oh, yeah, Shark Tank.
And one of the dudes bought into the company like 20 or 30%, and they have done like millions. So I could just imagine how creative they were for Taco Bell sweaters. I want one. I'm a major Taco Bell fan. I want one.
You know, I don't like Taco Bell, actually. I'm the weird guy. I love the cinnamon twists.
Oh,
I love cinnamon twists, but I can't do Taco Bell. No.
How do you not do Taco Bell?
This hurts me. It. I'm sorry, Dave. I'm just going to have to hurt you a little more. I just can't stand it.
Man. I do want one of those sweaters, though. Totally.
They're pretty cool. You ready for more?
I am.
Keeping in the Thanksgiving spirit, if you could call it that, armed and delicious turkey chases police car. Police in Massachusetts shared a video of a suspect considered armed and delicious. A turkey aggressively chased after a patrol car. Officer Darren Derby of the Cheshire Police Department shared a video of a turkey running after Officer Dylan Voldowski's squad car while he drove at a slow speed on a city road. Derby said the turkey had attempted to climb into the vehicle through an open window when Voldowski started driving away. Any information on the whereabouts of the subject, please call the Cheshire Police Department. Do not approach the subject because he's considered armed and delicious, Derby wrote.
Oh, my gosh. You know, before we go into that, while you were speaking, I actually pulled up these Tipsy Elves sweaters for Taco Bell. They are fantastic. They are absolutely fantastic. The one is red, and it says thankful for on a taco shell, Taco Bell, with, jalapeno peppers on the bottom. It's just beautiful. And the other one has Happy Friendsgiving on it with a Taco Bell or a taco shell shaped as a turkey. It's fantastic. Absolutely fantastic.
Who doesn't want to be seen strolling down the main street in that attire? That's what I'm wondering.
Oh, I want one of those. Definitely want one.
Hey, Taco Bell, hook me up.
But no kidding. But as for this turkey, I mean, they are vicious birds, man. They are vicious birds.
Oh, we have a pack. We have a pack of wild turkeys where I live. They'll just go strolling down them. Yeah, and I live in suburbia. There's like 20 or 30 of them. They just like shut down the road. Now somebody told me they sleep in trees, which boggle my mind.
And here I am worried about the wolf pack that's out in the forest.
No, dude, you need to be worried about the the turkey pack.
Apparently I do.
Yeah.
Dude, earlier this week we found wolf tracks, literally
big
almost, they're about 3/4 the size of my hand. It was incredible. That's a big wolf, man.
Yeah, but that ain't nothing compared to a pack of turkeys, man. They're coming for you.
Oh, man.
They're armed and delicious.
No kidding. I'm bringing a sharp knife, a fork, and some stuffing.
Can I tell you another secret that's going to hurt you?
Yeah, do that.
I don't like turkey.
Okay.
I don't.
Now, if you tell me you prefer soccer over hockey, we're going to end this call right now.
I don't like, the only turkey that I like is deep fried turkey. If you make deep fried turkey, it's game on. But the roasted turkey, barbecue turkey, I can't stand it. I really don't like fowl in general. I don't like goose. I don't like duck. I don't like chicken.
What do you eat, man? What do you eat?
You know, I love bacon. I like pork. I like red meat. I love ostrich. I have a thing for wild boar. I love wild boar. You want to make me happy? Give me some wild boar.
Well,
I like
you know
tofu.
what?
I love tofu.
How do you like
great.
tofu? Oh, tofu is just. Oh, dude, tofu is just watered down drywall.
You know the best thing that I make. You may not know this, but I'm the paranoid baker. And you know the thing that I actually like to eat that I make? It's called gravlax. It's like a Scandinavian cured salmon. It is so good. I make gravlax. Oh man, it is so good.
Shout out to my sister who is on her way to Haiti right now to help out with orphan children. I know she's on the plane right now. She's on the plane right now. I think she's listening in. Because, they got internet on the planes now.
Every year in January, I always do it in January, but every year Paranoia actually donates money to Doctors Without Borders.
Nice.
So more power to your sister. I think that's awesome.
Yeah. Well, you know what? For my sister, this could be a little bit of a saving grace because this is my sister who lost her son earlier this year to a fentanyl overdose. So she is taking a much-needed break, and she loves children. Absolutely loves children. So she is going to, hopefully help some kids out for, they send people down there for a week to help out. And then if they like it and they score well, they can come back for, a month, 6 months, a year or whatever. So we're really encouraging her to do that. That's for sure.
That's awesome.
But, yeah.
That's awesome.
All right. Let's get to the next story, my friend.
Well, just when you were thinking of ways to go, because there's always something coming for you, right? It turns out there's a dark matter hurricane headed for the Milky Way.
Really? Explain.
Yeah. I am finding it. Hold on a second. I didn't realize I had to scroll. Boarding up your windows and gathering some bottled water and flashlights won't do you any good against the cosmic hurricane of dark matter hurtling toward our galaxy. So that doesn't mean you should worry. A stretched out line of stars designated S1 stream has torn through dwarf galaxies and is thought to be carrying a ton of dark matter. Scientists are unsure, though, because they don't really know what dark matter is. Since dark matter has proven elusive to any detection, scientists are hoping this event will be the first time they can record the stuff, but they say it will likely have no impact on anything observable to Earth. So it's coming. We don't know what it is, but we know it's coming, but we can't see it. But we know it's coming, but we can't detect it. But we know it's coming, but it's not going to hurt us. Okay. Yeah.
Oh, my goodness. How do we
I
survive?
enjoyed the absurdity.
How do we survive?
I don't know, man. With sticks and stones? I'm really not sure.
Well, you know what? This is a time, man, where you got to go down to the local gas station and load up on Bic lighters.
Bic lighters and some beef jerky.
No kidding.
Beef jerky and Bic lighters. Yeah. You want to survive the apocalypse? Duct tape, Bic lighters, and beef jerky, and you're good. That's all you need, man. And some toilet paper. You don't want to be stuck in the apocalypse with no toilet paper.
This is true.
That would suck.
This is true.
And the other thing, when you're picking through the debris of society, there's going to be no toilet paper left.
Well, I mean, the other thing that we need to remember is bring lots of hot sauce. Lots of hot sauce, because that stuff can make anything taste better.
Sure. I don't like hot sauce.
Let's get to the thought of the day, shall we?
Let's do it.
Thought of the Day happens every night at this time, where we post a question on our Facebook and Twitter pages, then read your responses on the air, because that's kind of what we like to do around here, have some audience participation. Today's Thought of the Day, we thought we'd make it simple for you. What are your exciting plans for this weekend? Let's see how creative you are. Now, I got to tell you, there's a couple people who've made me very, very jealous on here. Very jealous. Paul and Russ are going fishing. Very, very. Oh, I love the fishing. Love me some fishing. Jay is building, but he doesn't say what he's building. Brandy says, I'm in Canada at a Tesla metamorphosis training. What the hell is that? I'm going to have to ask Brandy about that. Nancy, shopping for my granddaughter's birthday gift. She literally has everything except maybe a horse. Oh, spoiled granddaughter.
Excuse me.
That pretty much means that you're going to have to get her a horse, Nancy. They're expensive. Dan.
A lot of work.
Dan is going to his daughter's ringette tournament. Oh, I got to save that one for the end, because Barrett, if you're listening, you absolutely cracked me up today when I read this. I'm saving that one for the end. John, the same thing I do every weekend. Put whatever I got this week on eBay and nap when my wife watches live PD. What is PD?
Police department?
I don't know. I'm too Canadian for that. Latriana. Rearranging the house and getting ready for Christmas. My God, Olaf, I looked at my Christmas decorations today.
Yeah, I was looking at inflatables.
I don't do the inflatables.
Oh, I do. I have a collection.
Liz states, dressing in drag, pretending to smoke a joint, and singing a show tune on stage in front of a live audience. Oh.
Cool.
Kind of like she's back on Spaced Out Sundays. Right on. Keith, keeping a low profile, a full-size cardboard picture of Bobo Fay, a bucket of Nair hair removal, and a trail camera will get you one irate Bigfoot. That is funny. Dolly in Australia, I'm going to be felting animals for Christmas. I don't know what that means. Somebody tell me in one of the chat rooms or on Twitter what felting is. October, trying to shoot as Morticia Adams. Superlen, watching football, eating, and trying to get the wife's boobs on my face. Probably should not have read that one cold.
No.
This is what happens when I do not pre-read these. Adnome. Saturday night, off work. Well, here's my question. What new trick should I teach your gnomes, Dave Scott? I am one with the gnomes, man. One with the gnomes. Aussie Rob, how's tomorrow looking? How's tomorrow looking, Aussie Rob? Going to be working with fires and metals and gemstones, combining them all together into works of art. Actually, you should check out Aussie Rob. Robert White, his name is on Facebook. He's got a picture of a bird on there. He does some amazing work. Amazing work. Sylvia, trying to heal broken bones. Oh, that's not good. Looks like Amy's going to a concert. Patricia's attending the Seattle UFO Network conference call to plan their 10-year anniversary in January 2019. Stephen, dressage, and golf. Barrett, you get the final word tonight. This is awesome. Total darkness, sitting nude in a bathtub filled with blueberry yogurt while listening to Spaced Out Radio. It does not get any better than that. I want to see this. I want to see this, Olaf. Barrett, take a photo, man. I got to see the blueberry yogurt.
Oh, wow.
I got to see it. My friend, tell everybody where they can find Paranoia Magazine.
ParanoiaMagazine.com, Paranoia Magazine on Facebook, Paranoia Mag on Twitter, Paranoia Mags on Instagram. And you can see me wearing a mask.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, my friend. And don't forget, you can also find the SOR Newswire put together by Captain Shirk. Click on our website, go to the news tab, click on there. Boom, you're right there. Olive, we'll talk to you on Monday, my friend.
You got it.
I want to say thank you to Mr. Gordon Lohr for coming on, talking about all of his UFO history and research. That was absolutely awesome. This weekend, Tessa Nicole Thomas takes over SOR headquarters for Spaced Out Weekend starting at 9 o'clock Pacific, midnight Eastern, both Saturday and Sunday night. We got Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thal rocking us in the background with Little Brother Is Watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Thank you, everybody listening in at home, at work, in your cars, wherever you may be, for a fantastic week. Special thanks to everybody in the chat rooms on Spreaker, Revolution Radio, the SOR Space Travelers, and on Twitter at hashtag Spaced Out Radio for making it a fun week. Because together, my friends, we own the night. I will talk to you on Monday. Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home. Have a great weekend, everybody. See you Monday.